Made a Record, Now What? Seminar was held January 30th, and the keynote speaker, that's him on stage here with Ed Shane, was the incomparable Lloyd Maines. He talked for about an hour, had stories and all kinds of great tips that every singer or songwriter, musician, producer, publisher, anybody in the music scene really needs to know. Can't share the whole hour with you, unfortunately, but from his list of the top 10 most important things for you to know, here's a few of them.
The first thing I'll say is be on time. Be on time. Whenever you've got a session or a gig or a meeting, be on time. I mean, that's, you know, if you're late, you're not only infringing on your time, but you're infringing on somebody else's time. And the older you get, you'll understand this. Time is your most precious quantity. So be on time. Let's see. When you get to the session, be prepared. You know, you're going to save a lot of money if you go in knowing exactly what you want to do. If you want to do like a pre-production meeting with the producer, that's great. Just be prepared. Don't walk in and be scratching your head as to what song you want to do first, or if you want to do this song, or if you know, like you want to do 10 songs, maybe have 12 songs in mind, just in case you want to make it audible in the middle of the session. But you'll save a lot of money and a lot of heartache just by being prepared. And also, if you do meet with a producer, give him some examples. Like if you're a first timer and you feel like your music, you know, if say Guy Clark, if you love Guy Clark records and you'd love your record to kind of be in that vein, well then take in a couple of examples of Guy Clark CDs, or because it really helps me as a producer to sort of know where your head is, to know how you perceive your music. Also, it helps the engineer. Sometimes I'll actually, if you tell me that you like Guy Clark's sound, if you like the way his recordings are, then I'll find some CDs and give them to the engineer and kind of let him soak that in. Also, we're kind of jumping ahead here, but once your project's done, once the mix is done, and you're going to listen to it, listen on familiar speakers. Listen on speakers that you're used to listening to all your music on. And try to listen as flat as possible. On your EQ settings, try not to have the bass boosted or treble. Try to make it as flat as possible. Give you a lot better reading of exactly what your mix sounds like. And this is really important. And sometimes, I just produced this great band out of Fort Worth called the Tejas Brothers. Really great band. And I told them, once they got the rough mixes, I said, play it for your wives, play it for your family. Don't play it for anybody else, please. The next thing I know, I've got this guy with 1,100 Springs that I produced. Matt said, yeah, man, they were on our radio show then. I brought in a rough mix and we played it on the air. So it's like I would prefer not, you know, I mean, as a producer, that's what you don't want to hear, because rough mixes are just that. They're rough mixes. So anyway, even after you get your real mix, until it's a done deal, don't play it for a lot of people. You know, play it for people that you really value their opinion, but don't shoot it out there and try to get opinions, because people will give you an opinion even if they don't have one. And sometimes it'll sort of psych people out, you know.
Yeah, and if they hear the rough mix and don't like it, it could be likable in the final mix.
Oh yeah, exactly. And just like while you're in the studio, and Terry mentioned this a while ago too, be aware if time's being wasted, you know, because if you're paying, you know, $60 an hour for the studio, if you're paying whatever you're paying your producer, and you're paying a room full of musicians, if you've got an engineer that's you know, in between songs that is talking about the Houston Texans, what a game yesterday. You see that game, you know, and wants to get into like sports talk, and be prepared to say, you know, point at your watch. You know, like just, you know, first time in the studio is kind of tough because everything's new, but just be aware if time's being wasted, call the producer over and say, look, we need, money's valuable here. So, and every time that second hand clicks, you're spending money. So just try not to let a lot of time go by unproductive. Let's see. Now this is, I'm jumping ahead here. I'm assuming we'll take questions in a minute.
Yes, we will.
The only thing I'll say about the business end of it, most of the really successful people who have lasted a long time in this business have engaged in the business. Robert Earl Keen is a great example. I mean, I had the opportunity to work with him on 3 records. The Live Dinner #2, which is his biggest seller, by the way. And it was the cost the less to make. It was a live recording from Flores Country Store. And then his last 2 studio records I did. And I just getting to know him, he is absolutely brilliant band leader. And he keeps, even though he comes off as the nonchalant, party guy, I'm telling you, man, he has his finger on the pulse of everything that goes on. And that's one reason that his band, some of his band members have been with him for 20 years. Mm-hmm. I think the newest band member he's got has been there 12 years. And he does it by mutual respect. He shows respect to every band member. They show it back to him. It's really important. So engage in your business. Okay. Once you get your record done, once you get your career going, booking agents, publicists, managers, radio promoters, the producer while you're recording, the engineer, the musicians, never lose fact of the sight that they work for you. You don't work for them. They work for you. And I know that as a producer, if someone gives me a budget, at the end of the day, a lot of times I'll actually give people a rundown of what we spent, what we got left. At the end of the project, I count for every penny spent. And I encourage you that if you're going to hire a publicist, hire a radio promoter, you make them do the same thing. Because it's expensive, and like I said, unless your grandmother's got a huge oil field, money's precious, and so just make sure that if you hire something done like that, whether it's a publicist, promoter, whatever, make them show you where every penny goes. If it's
there's some bands that have been together since they've been in high school,
right,
and they carry that guitarist because he can't do a chord, but he's our friend or he's my brother or what have you.
Yeah,
and you got to tell them something.
Yeah, there's nothing that will send chills down a producer's spine more than the words, well, we don't really have to hire a bass player because my wife's cousin plays bass. All right, well, there you go. I mean, and I usually have to say that bass and drums in any session are the most important part, because that's like, and I use the analogy, if you're building a house, if your slab is not poured correctly, it doesn't matter what you do to the walls or to the roof, eventually you're going to have problems. And it's the same way with bass and drum. You got to build that foundation, and then everything else is easy. But to get your question, and I've had to deal with that a few times, but I tell you, I've had really good luck at taking, and I hate to use the term mediocre, because I mean everybody's got their own level of talent, their own level of playing, but maybe taking a guy who doesn't know how to set his guitar up, or who, I mean, a lot of out of tuneness is just because he's gripping too hard, and I'll maybe take him aside as not to embarrass him in front of people, and just say, hey, look, let's look at your intonation. Something's happening here, man, because you're tuning with a tuner, but when you grab that chord, it's out of tune. And a lot of times I'll show him how to make the chord and avoid the problem note. I don't have any guitar players. There's a lot of guitar players here, I know. But a lot of times if you're going to play, say, an F chord, F, and back me up here, F is the least favorite chord to play of any guitar player, huh? All right, yeah. It's just hard because it's right down at the end of the neck, And if you'll not put your finger on the G string, it's still a great F, but it's an F9, which sounds better than a regular F. So like next time you play an F chord, if you're doing like a bar chord, just don't put any fingers on the G string. Because I guarantee you, any guitar, I don't care if it's a Martin or a Stella, that G string is going to be sharp when you make that F. And it's a mathematical thing that I can't explain. But so I'll do stuff like that. So the end result is I'll take that guitar player that's having trouble, and by the end of the session, he's on the record. He's on the record. If there's something that he just can't wrap his head around, then I'll maybe bring in someone to embellish that part, or sometimes I'll do it myself. You know, if it's not, if it's okay with the artist. But I always try to include the band members, because if an artist wants to use their band, I'll bend over backwards to make each band member get their best performance. And it's worked pretty well. I mean, I'll use Jason Boland's band as an example. I mean, I've done, I'm not sure how many records, a lot of records on Jason. And he's got pretty much the same guys that he had from the get-go. And, you know, when they came in, it's like I had to like kind of take them and break some of their bad habits immediately. But man, now it's like the last record I did, on the last two records, God, they were teaching me stuff. It's like they've all turned into these great players, and they you know, they all credit me for kind of helping them get to that level, just because I was patient enough to work with them.
Is it difficult to take a stage band and give them the discipline that's needed in the studio?
Well, you know, the main thing is they have to break some bad
Darn,
habits.
gotta cut him off. Wish we had more time, but let me tell you this. If you're part of the Texas, Red Dirt, or Americana music scene, you need to come to the seminar next year. Don't miss out.